Hi, and welcome to Parashat Shemini. How can we understand the death of the two sons of Aaron, Nadav and Avihu, the very day of the consecration of the Mishkan, the happiest day of Aaron's life, the culmination of all his work, and also the happiest day of the Jewish nation, because after the Chet Egel, the golden calf, it took till Yom Kippur for God to forgive them, and then it took another 4 months or 5 months for them to build the Mishkan, and they waited till the 1st of Nisan to consecrate it, and it was 7 days of preparation. This was the 8th day. The 8th day was the 1st of Nisan, and on that day, the most happiest day, when the fire of Hashem finally comes down to indicate that the connection between God and His Jewish people are sound. On that very day is the day that Nadav and Avihu passed away. And the sages are puzzled. They give lots of explanations. Perhaps it was because they didn't have children. Perhaps because they were eager to take over the leadership of Aaron and Moshe. Perhaps it was a lack of respect, or when the Torah was given, at Mount Sinai, Nadav and Avihu sat down and ate, and perhaps that was a lack of respect. But the Alshech is puzzled because it says clearly in the Torah that they died because they brought unauthorized fire. So why are you giving so many other explanations to their death? And the thing that's really bothering all the commentators is that it says that the fire came down and consumed them and they died. And this idea was, did they die from fire or did they die from other deaths? Because in the other descriptions of the death of Nadav and Avihu, namely in Achrei Mot and other places, twice it says that the sons of Aaron died. It doesn't say that they died of fire. And so there's this confusion. Why did they die? And the Alshech says brilliantly that when it says in the Hebrew, in Achrei Mot, chapter 16, verse 1, Behakrivhem lefnei Adonai, they died when they brought this strange fire to God. The Alshech is saying Behakrivhem means not that they died because of bringing the fire, but when they brought the fire. So the timing of the death is coinciding with when they brought the fire, but that's not the reason. The Alshech is saying that there is something much deeper going on, and many of the commentators are suggesting that their death was decreed before that. In fact, it was decreed back in the end of Mishpatim, chapter 24, verse 11. It says, this is just after the Ten Commandments, against the great men of the children of Israel, Hashem did not stretch out his hand. They gazed at God, and yet they ate and drank. In other words, there was a certain familiarity that was going on here, instead of the awesomeness and the awe that was due to be expressed with the awesomeness of the revelation of giving of the Torah. At that time, Nadav and Avihu sat down and ate and drank, and it was decreed then that they should die, but not at that time, because Hashem didn't want to ruin the celebration of bringing the Torah down to the Jewish people. So he delayed it, but why specifically did he delay it till now, when the consecration of the Mishkan is happening? And the Alshech is suggesting that God is not happy to ruin the celebrations of the Torah, but he was happy to activate these two deaths at the time of giving the Mishkan. And what is the purpose of that? Because Moshe says to Aaron, in our Parasha, in Shemini, chapter 10, verse 3, it says, Vayomer Moshe el Aaron, hu asher diber Adonai lemor, bikrovai ekadesh. Now I understand what Hashem said to me, that I will be sanctified through those who are nearest to me. And he says, thus I will be honored before the entire people. And Aaron, as a result of hearing that, was silent. How can we understand this? Moshe said he understood from God that either he, Moshe, or Aaron would be the ones that would die at this moment, and wasn't aware that in fact it was Nadav and Avihu who died, as a sign that they were closest to Hashem, more close than Aaron and Moshe. So why would Hashem want to take those closest to him at the time, and what is the lesson to Bnei Israel? And it's clear that there is a parallel between the lack of awe that was demonstrated at the time of Matan Torah and the familiarity that the boys displayed by entering into the Kodesh HaKodeshim with their own fire, without authorization, without consulting Moshe and Aaron, without consulting each other. They just did it impulsively, with passion. And the Alshech is saying, how can we even understand that? Because you have a situation later, many hundreds of years later on, when Titus destroys the temple, he goes into the Kodesh HaKodeshim and pierces his sword in the curtain, and blood comes out from the curtain. But Titus walks out unharmed. So how is it that he goes in the Kodesh HaKodeshim unauthorized, unharmed, comes out unharmed, and the boys go in wanting to connect with God and die? And that's one of the reasons why they're saying that one of the possible reasons for the death is the fact that they didn't consult with each other, the boys, or with Aaron and Moshe, and get authorization for what they did. But the point is, at the end of the day, the key phrase that the Alshech points out in our parasha is when it says that they ve'metu lifnei Adonai, they died before Hashem. What does it mean they died before Hashem? They died as a korban to Hashem. And in fact, what's fascinating is that after their death, Aaron is instructed not to mourn, whilst the Bnei Israel are instructed by Moshe to mourn for the boys. How do we even understand that? And the Alshech suggests that, imagine you were at the wedding. If, God forbid, the mother or father of the bride and groom pass away, the law is that you have to take the body to one side and the wedding has to continue. It's a bizarre law, but that's the law. And so the suggestion here is that Aaron was the best man of the bride, Bnei Israel. And so even though there was a sad loss, the wedding, the connection between God and the Jewish people could not be postponed as a result of that. And so he had to continue officiating and doing the korbanot and eating of the meat. But then who's going to mourn for the boys? Because they were very holy people. They didn't die from sins as such, or from evil intentions. They had very good intentions and they wanted to connect with God. And so Moshe instructs the Bnei Israel to treat them as brothers and to mourn for them. And this understanding by Aaron that the boys were a korban, that Hashem came down and took their lives by the fire, like a korban, like an olah, which is basically what the Jewish people were waiting for, that sign from God that he was going to bring his fire down and consume the korban, the animal korban. In a similar format, God demonstrates that he takes the closest to him as a sign. And what is the sign? What is the lesson for the Jewish people? And it is that no matter how close you want to be to God, or how close you feel you are to God, there should still be that awe and respect that determines your behavior in front of God. Because if Aaron was to mourn, the Alshech suggests that it would imply that there was some question to the justice of Hashem. And instead of this being the moment of reconciliation and connection between God and the Jewish people, it will become a moment of anger where Hashem is displeased with us. And so Aaron therefore was very silent in the knowledge that his two sons, righteous two sons, were the vehicle through which Hashem will give the the most clear message for all generations, that closeness to Hashem comes with responsibility and with awe, and very strict laws have to be applied so that you don't die. And that is the reason why God commands Aaron and all the Kohanim afterwards for generations not to drink when they're going into the temple, because it's crucial for the Kohanim to be able to discern between pure and not pure, and between holy and not holy. And they can only do that with a very clear, conscious mind that is not influenced by any hallucination or drugs or fever. And in fact, this is the whole parasha of Avihu, which talks about their death in a couple of weeks' time, is the one that's read in Yom Kippur, because this is the pinnacle parasha to describe how Hashem uses our sacrifice to repair and cleanse us from all that we have done wrong. And the Alshech concludes with three ideas, and that is the first from the Zohar, that when a tzaddik dies, his soul goes up to the celestial heavens and is matched and joined by the tzaddik's heavenly counterparts. And this gives a great deal of joy up in the heavens, and that's why the anniversary of their death is called a Hilulah, a cause of celebration amongst the ones left behind, to rejoice with the continued elevation of the soul that departed from the region. The second thing is that the golden calf sin was still not completely cleansed. We were not cleansed from it, and we need further atonement. At the time when the tabernacle was erected, those that had sinned with their hearts, not with their actions, that was the time that sin was erased more fully. And finally, while it's true that the death of a righteous person brings a awakening of atonement for those survived, it's only the case when the people surviving mourn for the death of the person departing and use it as a way of reflection to look inwardly at their own actions and how the loss of the tzaddik is a kapara for their own shortcomings. So that's it for this week's parasha. I want to leave you with a bracha that as we yearn to get close to God, in whatever way we do that, either through learning or through praying or through doing good deeds and mitzvot, whatever way we do it, we always retain that level of awe and respect, and understanding that as we get close to Him, it's crucial that we stay very tight within the guidelines of what's allowed and what's not allowed, so that we don't get damaged in the process. Wishing you Shabbat Shalom, God bless, and see you next week.